Amsterdam finally dropped. And Dave, I say finally because I have to say I had a lot of anticipation for this movie. You get David O. Russell, who I think people probably know, but I mean, I Heart Huckabee is probably the biggest one that he's done. But just kind of, what was the most recent one? I'm forgetting. American
Well,
Hustle. No,
uh,
Civilized Playbook.
Joy was the last one 7 years ago, 2015, and he had made a lot of noise in the 2010s, right? The
Yeah,
Fighter, a lot of
that's
accolades.
the one I was thinking of.
Then Silver Linings Playbook, then American Hustle, three Best Director nominations in a row for David O. Russell, and then Joy. Those later three, Jennifer Lawrence, three Oscar nominations, including The Win, Silver Linings Playbook, and then he stopped making movies. And didn't really do anything. 7 years later, here's Amsterdam, a film that was previously known as Canterbury Glass, and before that was untitled David O. Russell film for a while. Um, Been a minute. You mentioned I Heart Huckabee's Three Kings. Like, he's had a pretty storied career, even if it's been a bit up and down. And I think since then, obviously, a lot of anticipation for this film because the cast is just vast, and it had been such a long wait from him, given his track record. But he also has really come under fire a lot of bit for his actions on set,
Mhm.
and just in his personal life. And he seems to be a much more controversial figure out in the open. That is until unlike he was, when he was last making movies. So kind of interesting to interrogate one of his films now, especially because despite the anticipation that we both had for this film, it definitely doesn't meet those high expectations that would follow a ensemble cast from a big time director.
Yeah, so the Fighter was the movie I was thinking of, but the last time him and Christian Bale worked together was The Fighter, if
Mm,
I'm reading this right. And now
correct.
you get Christian Bale back, but you also get Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Chris Rock, Anya Taylor Joy, Zoe Saldana, Mike Myers, Michael Shannon, Timothy Oliphant, Taylor Swift. Like, you have so many big names here. This movie, in a lot of ways, when I think we first talked about it, almost felt like it was too big to fail in a sense, but this movie feels like a total failure. Not only does it feel like a bit meandering and like kind of aimless at times, but just like confusing, I think. And I by the end, I think the ending is okay, but like I don't really know if I totally got what the movie was trying to say a lot of the time, and it just kind of felt like a mess. I guess the best way to put it. What was your take on it?
Right. And also, Russell isn't exactly the best messenger anymore for uh, a more top level, like, comment on how things impact society. Like, I wasn't expecting Amsterdam, the film, to be directly referencing slash adapting like real life history, the business plot,
Hmm.
as it were, to overthrow FDR. Um, yeah, it's. I think to me, it's like it's not as comedic as you'd hope, despite kind of suggesting it is, and it also isn't as like dramatically interesting from the like who done it side of things. Like right off the bat, Taylor Swift's character gets murdered by a hitman, Timothy Oliphant, and they're like, what's the deal with this, and why are they trying to frame John David Washington and Christian Bale? What's going on here, right? And then we're off to the races. But like, it doesn't really have that like dramatic pulse that you'd expect. You're kind of just going through the scenes. And am I disliking those scenes? Not necessarily, right? Like our core trio, Bale, Washington, and Margot Robbie.
They're great.
Hard to beat that. Like we're talking about like true talents here, and I really enjoyed them. Great to see Margot Robbie in a pretty sizable role here. I thought she was great. Um, Bale, bit a more understated uh,
Mhm.
personality to his character. Still kind of a big performance as we expect from Christian Bale, but uh, a bit different from Gore the God Butcher, obviously. Uh, and John David Washington, kind of reminiscent of some of his more recent roles. He just has a suaveness to
Yeah.
his presence as an actor that we like a lot. But yeah, I mean, like, I think there's a lot of plot in this movie because you're really rolling through plot as you're introducing characters. Many of them are just glorified cameos or one scene, two scene performances, but like because we're rolling through this plot, the plot has to, I think, be compelling to kind of drive the movie. And it's just the plot is not a good enough engine for the movie. It's really meandering, kind of unsatisfying story that it leaves you a bit wanting. Again, given the high expectations you associate with this cast, and like the cast is doing well. Like
Mhm.
seeing Anya Taylor Joy and Margot Robbie kind of like spar verbally. It's like, oh, great. I just wish they were doing something a little more interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned Bale and how like I think his performance is great. You can pretty much give Christian Bale anything and he's gonna be watchable. But near the end of the movie, they make this choice, right? So he's already kind of this like you see them in the flashback in Amsterdam, and all three of them are like just kind of like fun loving, having a great time, and they're coming back together years later by chance, quote unquote. Um, and they're all kind of worn down by life in different ways. And Bale is probably the one who I would say like drives the plot of the movie the most. He's kind of the storyteller. He's the one who's in the most scenes. But at the end, when Robert De Niro gives like his speech to the whatever the veterans gathering
Right.
that they had was, he gets shot in the leg, and then he had already taken this like eye drop that was like this like basically like numbing like medication, and he doesn't talk for like the biggest scene in the movie, which is like fine, I guess. Like you didn't really need him because I mean you have a room of uh you know you have all the main characters there. Sorry, John David
Mhm.
Washington, Margot Robbie, Robert De Niro, Michael Shannon, Rami Malek. Like they're all sparring, so you didn't really need him. But it's like, man, he's been the one for the whole movie. This is like quite the choice to just like silence him here. You do kind of get like a in his head like flash forward type look, but just didn't really like make sense to me. And I just felt like there were choices like that all throughout the movie. Like even the beginning, you have Taylor Swift get killed, and then they immediately flash back to Amsterdam to explain this. And I was like, why didn't you put this first? Like I'm so confused. I was
Yeah.
confused for like 5 minutes. Like what's happening? And then like I understood, but that didn't make much sense to me. It also felt like you kind of had these random people, and I know that there's an air of mystery to this, but you have these like random duos, right? You have Michael Shannon and
Mike Myers,
Mike Myers together, right? And they're kind of
MI6, and CIA spies in
right.
disguise kind of thing.
And then you have Rami Malek and Anya Taylor Joy, and you have Chris Rock and I think I can't remember if he had a partner or not, but you just
No,
kind of
he
have
didn't.
like these random pieces, and it all just felt non cohesive, and I was like, man, I just don't know if this jumping around makes sense. And I gotta be honest, the storyline with Bale and his wife and her parents and Irma, played by Zoe Saldana. Thankless role for Zoe Saldana, first of all.
Hmm.
Like, what a waste. Give her more to do. But then, like Bale, like with his like marriage, I just like didn't really like that plot much or that part of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot I just didn't like.
Yeah, well, it's kind of frustrating because like you have this core trio, and like you said, we start off with like setting up the who done it and killing Taylor Swift, and then we flash back, and it's like actually the flashback and like learning about the genesis of this trio is just the most interesting stuff
Mhm.
going on because those three have good chemistry, and that's just more fun to be with, and it's like
Yeah.
the plot's like besides the point. So I think it's just a bit ill conceived.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I did appreciate seeing Ed Begley Jr. as Bill Meekins, the senator,
Yeah.
uh, because that's just Cliff Main from Better Call Saul to me. I was like, oh, my guy, nice to see you working.
Yeah, that was great. I also gotta say I did like De Niro in this. I feel like every time I've seen him recently, he's just been like a goofy old guy. So to see him playing like a serious old guy was kind of nice.
Mm.
And I felt like he gave probably the best performance I've seen him do in quite a while. So enjoyed that for sure. But any last thoughts? You ready to move on from this
Yeah, just
huge
talk about
disappointment?
a big disappointment after a big lead up. Also, this movie had a very unsuccessful opening weekend at the box office, and this movie was expensive. This is $80 million budget apparently, so this is going in the bomb ledger, uh,
Yikes.
for sure for Fox. So tough one.